Yeah. Hello and welcome to today's Dev Oktoberfest. My name is Jentsch. I'm leading the Steampunk product. So the title of today's session is how to build a multi-tenancy SaaS application. So let us take a look on the agenda of today's session. I would like to start with a short positioning of the product. I would explain a few latest news, especially the system Hibernation. And the biggest part of this session today is a live demo about how to build a multi-tenancy SaaS application. I will also provide references that you can also have a follow-up on the demo. So this session today, to be honest, is a bit challenging. The reason is pretty simple. So it's not only challenging for me, but it's maybe also challenging for you, because the demo is a broader story, which includes a lot of the different scenarios what we are supporting. But I hope that everything will work well. But let us start with the positioning of Steampunk, and you noticed I'm using the term Steampunk, which is the internal project name of our product, but this is well known also externally. So Steampunk is nothing else than SAP BTP ABAP environment. So why did we introduce this product? We want to enable ABAP developer community to step into cloud. How we are doing this? So we are providing a platform as a service offering to develop and run ABAP cloud apps and extensions. And what are the main ingredients? What are the main characteristics of our product? So yeah, it's a platform as a service, that's clear. And it's also intended to develop and run ABAP cloud apps. So we are providing a HANA database, which is part of the product. So it's automatically managed by the ABAP system. So therefore, it's not possible to use an own HANA database. So the Steampunk comes with an own managed HANA database. It's the HANA cloud instance of BTP, so the standard service, but it's managed by ABAP. So we are offering the ABAP cloud development model. Today, there was a dedicated session about ABAP cloud. So therefore, I only want to repeat the main ingredients, which are the ABAP development tools. And I will also show this in the demo later on. So we have the cloud optimized ABAP language. We have our ABAP RESTful application programming model as the leading programming model in Steampunk, and we are using the Fiori tools for UI development. So there is no SAP GUI supported, no SE80. We are completely relying on SAP Fiori tools for UI development. We are also providing custom code analysis, for example, the SAP Code Vulnerability Analyzer tool. And very important, because it's a platform. The platform is operated by us, by SAP. So it means we are doing all the upgrades, patches, and so on. The product is in the meanwhile available since Q3 2018. So we launched the product 5 years ago, and it's also available as a shared trial and as free tier. So I would quickly explain the different extensibility options from a core application, from a S/4HANA cloud perspective. This was also introduced and explained in another session, but I would like to set the scene where my session is focusing on. So we have the key user extension option, we have on stack developer extensions, and we have the side-by-side extension option. And this is exactly the purpose of my presentation, the purpose of the Steampunk product, so the ABAP environment in BTP, and this is intended for side-by-side applications. So how we are positioning the Steampunk product. So we have different target groups. So we want to offer it for education. So the idea behind this is that Steampunk is also operated on the newest release of the ABAP platform. So therefore, it's perfectly fine to use the shared trial option and also free tier to get in touch with the RAP programming model and other principles. So it's of course intended for customers. Customer want to build and develop loosely coupled side-by-side extensions for their core applications. For partners, it's a bit different. So customers also want to develop and run applications, but in a multi-tenancy fashion, and they want to build multi-tenancy SaaS applications for their end customers. So therefore, it's a bit different with a different focus. And last but not least, we are also using Steampunk for other SAP products on SAP's price list. Of course, we also want to drive the conversion from free tier to direct customers and partners. And we also want to have indirect customers of the products on top of Steampunk. So if we are looking into the usage scenarios, we see two main clusters, so two main sweet spots. First of all, it's about loosely coupled side-by-side extensions and applications, mainly for customers, and multi-tenancy SaaS solutions, mainly relevant for partners. So the typical usage scenarios for Steampunk, especially in the customer area, what we saw in the last few years is mainly motivations to decouple the lifecycle from the lifecycle of the core application. Another motivation is to separate new user groups from the core application and therefore to introduce a side-by-side approach. The same is true for the workload, similar to users. And if it comes to how the data is handled and managed, we also saw a couple of hub scenarios where customers want to consolidate data in a central system and then use it for other cloud scenarios. And the purpose of this session is to explain a bit more how partners can build multi-tenancy SaaS solution for their customers. All right, so let us move a bit to another topic, system hibernation. It can be also applied for parts of the demo later on. What does system hibernation mean? So we introduced this feature end of August. So system hibernation gives you an option to stop and restart the same system in order to save costs. So maybe you are aware of that we settle and calculate the price on a monthly basis based on hours of the uptime of a system. And we have two metrics. One is the HANA compute unit. The other one is the ABAP part, the ABAP compute unit. So basically, according to the size of the HANA database and the size of the application servers. So, and what we, the only option in the past in order to reduce costs according to the consumption pricing was to delete the whole system. But deleting the whole system means that also the data is lost. And if systems are only temporarily used, so it's of course better to stop a system and to restart it. And this feature is now available via the so-called landscape portal. This is a service which comes automatically and which is free of charge. It's part of the Steampunk product. And with the help of landscape portal, you can manually stop and manually start the system, or you can also schedule when the system should be maybe on a daily or weekly basis started and stopped. So therefore, this is, I think, a very good point to reduce the cost, especially in case of landscape costs. And we will also see now in a demo how many systems typically used for a productive application. And therefore, this is a good point to save costs. All right, so now I would like to move to the demo. As I mentioned, it's a huge demo. It's not only a Hello World example. What I also did in few previous demos, so it's really a bigger one, and I will also start with a bit more explanation what needs to be considered, especially for partners, if a partner want to offer a product. So there are two basic different models how to offer and also operate a solution by a partner. So first of all, that's the standard mechanism. This is also where I would like to focus in a demo. The typical thing is that a customer offers a multi-tenancy SaaS solution. So this option leads to a real cloud service. So the partner offers the service and does not copy the code to everywhere. So it's just a service. So the customer of a partner then can subscribe to that service, and the customer is getting an own tenant in order to ensure the content separation in the central provider system of the partner. So therefore, we are using the term provider system because this system is managed by the partner for their end customers. So another implication is that the application monitoring is in the responsibility of the partner. And the partner is need to take care about the sizing and the infrastructure costs of the provider system, because the different tenants are sharing the same provider system. We from a product side are providing respective tools, but the responsibility is is on partner side. So sometimes there's a misunderstanding about the extensibility options. So because for this option there's no possible use of ABAP in Eclipse, so there's no developer scenario to extend the solution which was provided by the partner. But there is also extensibility flavors for the key users of the customer. So, and these two extensibility features are field extensibility based on predefined field and custom logic. So this is offered even for this scenario in a multi-tenancy fashion. So it means there are Fiori apps to do exactly these field extensibility and also to implement custom logic in a tenant-aware mode. So very important to mention, even with multi-tenancy SaaS solutions, there is field extensibility and custom logic. But there's also a second option, and one I think typical thing could be to provide an SDK. So the second option is to provide this piece of software as an installable product. I'm also using the term add-on, so because it's very similar to the add-on approach in the on-premise world, but it's a bit different. It's also a service how to build these add-ons. Therefore, I'm using the term product. So you can offer your product as an installable add-on, which can be installed in another Steampunk system of the customer. So this requires, of course, that the customer has an own Steampunk system, and therefore the installation and also the upgrades, patches, and so on of the add-on are in the responsibility of the customer. So the approach how to do it is also the same. It's also like to build the add-on. It's also based on the landscape portal, but in that case on customer side. There's one feature missing, which is planned by end of October this year. But end of October, it's planned to be able that customers can install a product into their own system. So with that approach, and this is typical for SDKs, a customer would be able to consume released APIs of such an SDK in their own custom code, and also even to build an own product using the referred add-on for own purposes. So these are basically these two options. Of course, you could also combine these two options for the same product if you want to support two flavors, but it's definitely a very important decision because it has an implication on the operations side, who is doing the operations and so on. So I would start thinking of using the multi-tenancy SaaS solution approach because that's a real cloud service and the appropriate option for applications. So there is another topic which is also very important, and sometimes there are also misunderstandings which type of lifecycle management tool should be used when. So we have basically three different tools in that area, and I would like to explain this. What is the purpose of these different tools? So first of all, I would like to talk about ABAP Git. The community tool ABAP Git is integrated into Steampunk. It's the only one option to import development objects from on-premise to Steampunk, and maybe backup is not the right term, so it's not the backup approach of Steampunk, of course. But if you want to move out the objects out of Steampunk, then you can also export the objects via ABAP Git. ABAP Git is definitely not recommended to transport objects between Steampunk systems. For that purpose, the managed software component app with the underlying GCTS technology is the right choice. So if you want to transport objects from dev to test within a Steampunk landscape, you need to use this option. So this transport is based on a software component which is required, and this needs to be registered, and you need to start with a clone software component. And this, under the hood, we are using GCTS and a hidden Git repo to manage the storage of these objects outside of the system. But again, that's the right choice if you want to move development objects within your global account between different Steampunk systems. So if you want to offer a product, so real assembled and real a piece of software which is really bundled, then to build a product is the right choice. And it's also mandatory if you want to install this product into another BTP global account. And there might be different reasons why this is necessary. Maybe you have a certain contract which distinguish between dev test, which is a bit cheaper compared to productive use, and there are two different global accounts. Then you need to move or you need to install the add-on in a separate global account, and for that purpose an add-on is required. Or in case of the second option I explained, if you want to provide an installable add-on, maybe due to an SDK approach, then you also need to build a product, and the pure GCTS and managed software component approach, the second one here in that slide, would not be sufficient. So again, these are the three main lifecycle management tools which we are providing. So there are also other general technical aspects which needs to be considered. So I already mentioned the software component. This is a very central thing. because if you plan to develop a real application, you need to start with a software component, because this is this is the deployment unit, so to say, for your application. And it's also important to understand that the lifecycle management approach and the tenant approach are two completely different things. So you need to decide which lifecycle management approach you want to use, and also whether you want to offer your application in a multi-tenancy or single tenant mode. So, but these are two separate decisions, and they are completely independent. But there are also dependencies between namespaces, and if you want to support more than one BTP global account, as I already said, if you want to support more than one BTP global account, you need to use the product as a lifecycle management tool. And if you are using this approach, so to build an add-on, you need to use ABAP namespaces. So therefore, it's not possible to develop something with Z or Y objects and to build an add-on based on these objects. So therefore, the namespace is mandatory for products. So of course, you can also use Z and Y objects and create a software component based on these kind of object names, but then you need to stay within the own global account. So that's also fine, but it's more related to customers. So for partners, I would always recommend to use an ABAP namespace to be more flexible. All right, last but not least, a few words about pricing. So there's a blog post by Florian Wahl, and this blog post explains the different contractual models which we are providing for partners. So there are different models with and without revenue share and OEM approaches and so on. So please take a look into this blog post. It's also nicely explained how the different types of system landscapes could look like, because especially the number of systems determines directly the pricing, because our two pricing matrix, as I already mentioned, are based on purely infrastructure costs and based on the sizes of the HANA databases and the application servers. So therefore, everything is infrastructure related. So, and not user-based, not number of requests, number of development objects or the like. So it's purely the hardware, so to say, the size of the HANA database and the app servers. All right, so a lot of introduction and considerations before I now start explaining the demo scenario. So what should be our demo? So I would like to demo how to build a small, simple Fiori application, and the purpose should be maintain event master data. So pretty easy, only one database table, just master data for events like this one. So it's not an event mesh, not a technical event, it's just an event like this one or a ticket and so on. So I would like to use a three system landscape. By the way, there's also a fourth system involved for the build, but mainly three systems: development, test, and productive system. And we want to support the multi-tenancy based on the client field. So I will also try to explain the different involved personas, because of course I'm doing the demo by myself, so therefore sometimes I'm the administrator, sometimes I'm the backend developer or UI developer, and also at the end I will switch to the customer of a partner, because the customer will then later on use the application. So we have also prerequisites. I already set up the system landscape in the BTP cockpit, And I also installed the ABAP development tools locally. Just a small question, is everything fine with the screen sharing and all this stuff? No hiccups? All right, I hope so. So the demo scenario, I already set up the BTP account. So I'm working on the same global account in our scenario. We anyhow want to build the add-on, and we so it's not in that case a two global account approach. We will stay within the same. Sub accounts. So I hope it's better now. All right, so I prepared the sub-account structure, and I start with develop and with test, and later on I will build the product and provide this provider system in a dedicated provider account. And the consumer perspective, where the subscription later on will happen, is also in a separate sub-account. Let us summarize the involved system. So we have different system IDs for our system landscape. We have the development system, test, a temporary build system, and the provider system with the ID EAT. So during the provisioning, you need to specify whether a development should be allowed in that system, and therefore we need to distinguish development and non-development systems. We have only one system for development. That's clear in our case. Therefore, we need to have this switch on. So I'm using the smallest size of all these different systems. So the minimum Steampunk system size is 1 ABAP compute units and 2 HANA compute units. This size can be increased later on, but we can definitely start with this size. In my example, I configured the build process that we are creating a separate build system for the build itself. So therefore, we need another system, so which is BLD, but it's also possible to use the test system. It's recommended to use a separate system to have a clean starting point for the assembly, but yeah, it would be possible also to use the test system. And as I mentioned, the system Hibernation can be also used here for the systems if they are not required, maybe next night and so on, or at the weekend, so in order to save costs. All right, so there are a couple of steps for the first part. So first of all, I would like to implement this application in the development system. I will explain all these steps in the system, but I will not do this everything step by step live. So basically, I will just show you the results of all these steps, but in all the respective systems. So therefore, I would like to start now with the definition of the software component. So because the system landscape is already in place, and I decided also about using an already registered namespace. So therefore, I would like to go now as an administrator in the administrator's Fiori LaunchPad of my development system dev. So let us jump into the global account. So here I see my sub-account structure. My development system is in the sub-account develop, and I'm now searching for my ABAP instance. So this is my development instance, and I log on to the Fiori LaunchPad. So within the Fiori LaunchPad, I would like as an administrator to start the development. And for that purpose, I need to use this software component app. I would like to register a new software component for my event app application. And this is pretty easy. I can just create a new one and just set this setting that it's for development purposes and not for configuration. And I just give it a name, and that's it. So I have my software component. So the next thing is, because it's only registered globally, I started this app from within the development system, but the pure creation is only a global registration of the software component. And now I would like to pull this empty software component into the development system in order to start the development. So and after the pull, I'm getting two objects in the development system, and therefore I'm switching now into my role as a developer, and I'm opening the ABAP in Eclipse toolset, and this structure package was created as part of the clone of the software component. So only this structure package was generated together with the software component in the development system. So here we can also see the namespace I decided to use. So this is a namespace which was registered for SAP internal testing, and I'm using this namespace and the name event app. So now I have a structure package and a software component. So these two objects were created, and in order to start my development, I need to create a normal development package, and this is also there. It's just a sub package of the structure package, and it is of type development. So and now I can start to develop my objects. I already needed a development request in order to create this development package, and I can start the development. So what I want to do now is I'm just creating a database table for events. So it's pretty straightforward. Very important to use the client field in order to support multi-tenancy. Very important. And the other semantic fields are pretty simple. It's just an event ID, a name, a location, whether it's online or not, and date from, date to. I think it's easier to look into test data. So I implemented a so-called console application, which implements this ADT class run interface in order to get a main method. And I implemented to fill a bit of test data. I think these are 4 different records. This is our event today, the Oktoberfest, and that's the time frame. It's a virtual event, and at the end I just insert these 4 entries into my database table. I can execute this main method. I'm adding 4 entries, and that's it. Now I can look into the preview of the database table, and here we go. We have our 4 different entries just as test data. So now I would like to create a RAP application at the end, a RAP OData v4 UI service, which is draft enabled. So for that purpose, I'm using the RAP generator. So I'm using this generate ABAP repository objects. I can choose between 3 different types of generation results. I would like to use the OData UI service, and if I'm providing different object names in the next steps of this wizard, I can just press finish, and I'm getting completely running OData v4 service. So this RAP generator generates CDS views and also behavior definition. I'm getting the whole enablement of create, update, delete, and so on and so forth. So, but at the end, it's this OData v4 UI service, which is important for me. I already published this UI service locally, and now I can test it. So I'm opening the preview, and I'm pressing go, and I see exactly the same records of my database preview also in the Fiori Elements UI. So now the OData service is completely finished. So what I do now is to generate the UI. So we are using the Fiori tools to build the UI on top of this OData service. I can build now an UI. I can build a UI and deploy the UI back to the Steampunk system using this Visual Studio Code extension. So I'm just explain the basic steps how to do it. So it's basically following these different steps. I need to choose the OData service from the connected system. So that's basically it. So that's also the correct thing. So that's important. At the end, I would like to generate a BSP application in the Steampunk system. Therefore, I need to follow the namespace. So it's not the correct one, but in order to save time, I'm just using this one. So we need to specify also what we need to specify. Configuration. So it's the application namespace. It's not required here. It's the next one. It's in the deployment configuration where we need to specify the name of the BSP application and also our package where we want to deploy the UI. And we also need to specify a transport request. This is something with dev, it's the system ID K for the transport type, and this is shown here in a transport organizer. All right, so with this kind of information, I'm just need to provide the Fiori LaunchPad configuration, how the tile should be named later on, and that's basically all. I press finish, and in the terminal, I start npm run deploy, and the BSP application is generated in that package. So now I have the BSP application and also the Fiori LaunchPad app descriptor in order to get a tile later on for the Fiori LaunchPad. All right, so with that, we are basically done with the implementation of the application. So the only one thing which is missing is the identity and access management part. Of course, it's very important to develop all the respective objects for that area in order to authorize the business users later on to use the service and to start the application. And for that purpose, we need to define an IAM app for this service. This is also done. So I implemented this IAM app which refers to the OData service. I specified the Fiori LaunchPad app descriptor in the IAM app, and in order to make it possible later on to define a business role, we need to define a business catalog which refers to the created IAM app, and this business catalog is later used in business roles. So in order to simplify the creation of business roles in the subsequent tenant later on, it's recommended to define a business role template, which is a development artifact. And this business role template just refers to the list of business catalogs which should be granted if a user is assigned to a business role of that template. So with these IAM objects, I'm done with the implementation of my application, and I can just release my transport requests. So with the release of my transport requests, the objects are exported into a hidden Git repository, and within that hidden Git repository, they are now able to be imported into subsequent systems. So this is exactly the next step, what we need to do. So we implemented in the meanwhile the application. So we have now a Fiori Elements application with a deployed UI with all the respective IAM objects. And now I would like to test this not really as a product, so because we don't have the product, but I would like to test the software component import in a test system in order to check whether everything works, whether all the objects are covered by transport requests and so on, that it really works in a separate system. So for that purpose, I go now into the test system. So with the system ID TST, and I can navigate into that system by using the other sub accounts. So it's in the test sub account. So we have our TST system here. I log on to that system, and what I need to do now first is to import the software component, because otherwise the code is not in that system. So I need to go into the same app where I created the software component initially in the dev system before. And here I'm just pressing the pull button, and I'm getting the complete solution with all the 22 developed objects into the test system. So this is one thing which needs to be done by the administrator. And then the administrator would authorize the user that the test user is able to call the app. So therefore, I'm staying within the same administrator's Fiori LaunchPad, but I move to the identity and access management, and I need to make sure that a business role exists, and which then can be assigned to a tester. So therefore, the approach is to create a business role from a template, because I transported and I developed a template for that purpose, and that I can get a business role out of this template. So I already did this, and this business role now comprises the respective business catalog, and So this is what I assigned in the development system, and I already assigned my user to this business role. So now I'm authorized according to the business role and the respective business catalog and the IAM app and the service assigned to the IAM app. I'm now authorized to open this app and using the OData v4 service. So let me try to find the app, and here we go. So that's the app. So I missed to define a Fiori LaunchPad space and page. So but the search is working. So I'm authorized to use the app. Just let us check that we don't get the 4 entries, because now we are in a test system and not in the development system anymore. So we can also check this. We are in the test system. And now I can create new entries and test the RAP application and so on. I think that's pretty straightforward. All right, so now we achieved a successful test of the application. What we need to do now is to build the product. So in order to build the product, we have the famous landscape portal, which provides us with a lot of wizards to do all these things, because at the end, we will get an add-on which can be installed into other systems, and we will also get so-called SaaS registry that we are able to subscribe to our application from other sub-accounts. So therefore, I would like to start now opening the landscape portal, and I open the landscape portal of a dedicated sub-account. So there's already a subscription to the landscape portal, and also the respective role collection for the landscape portal is set up. And now I need to add. So now I'm in the landscape portal, and the landscape portal provides a couple of different features. By the way, also the managed system Hibernation app. So, but what we want to use is the product registration and build product version. So first of all, I need to register my product. So this is a one-time activity where I'm just saying, yeah, this is the name of my product, and that's basically it. I also need to register the global account, but it's only a one-time activity. The more interesting part is the build product version. So here in that app, which is a wizard, here you can specify the templates. So if you want to create a new version, so a release delivery, and this is what we want to do, here you can go through this wizard and provide the respective parameters for building a new version. So this is not that easy without a wizard, but with the wizard you can fill out all these different parameters. You can specify whether you want to use an ATC check, which is highly recommended here, that the standard ATC check is executed, and in case of issues, the build product version is stopped. And you can also specify to do final integration tests, which means it's also fully automated if you want to create yet another system in order to test the technical installation of the build add-on. So everything here is automated and supported. And if you build your product version, you can check also the result, whether it was successful. And let us check it quickly here. So in the meanwhile, I created two versions, version 1 and version 2. And if we look into the version 2, you can also find which components are part of this product, which checks were executed, and even the detailed object list is also provided here. So, but the main thing is everything is fine, and yeah, we can now move on to the last thing. The last thing is to register our product, that the subscription is possible via BTP Cockpit. And so for that purpose, there's yet another app within the landscape portal. This is this so-called maintain solution. And it's also a wizard where you can enter the different parameters. So one important aspect is here you can specify the name, the system ID of the resulting provider system. So what we want to achieve is we want to set up, together with the first subscription, our provider system in the responsibility of the partner where all the subscribed tenants are located. So therefore, I need to specify the initial size of that system, so the number of HCUs and ACUs, and which add-on should be installed automatically in that system. So, and after deployment of these parameters, after configuring this solution, so we are now able to see this app in the service marketplace. So therefore, I can go back now into my global account and into the sub-account structure, and I open the consumer A. For example, this is a separate sub-account, and in the service marketplace, we have an entry for our event app. So and now I can subscribe to this event app. I already subscribed to it. Therefore, I have also this one entry as a subscription, and now I can directly jump into the application. And what is the target of this navigation? Now I'm connected to a certain tenant within the provider system, and now I'm able, because I also assigned the role and my user to this role, to find the maintain events app, and can create my first event for consumer A. So now I have used one tenant of the central provider system provided by the partner, and the partner can now onboard more customers, of course. This is yeah, also visualized here. I can use the sub-account customer C just to give you an impression that it's an arbitrary number of customers. And then I can also go into the event app and configure everything, even also configure favorites or pages and spaces to use the event app. All right, so yeah, maybe one thing I'm going back now to the partner's perspective, because now this was the consumption of an end customer for that solution. So if I go back to the landscape portal, I can also see a system overview of my global account, and I can also monitor the created tenants in that system. So because EAT is my central provider system, and yeah, I have also the information about the tenants, which tenants were already subscribed. So the client 100 is the tenant of the partner. This is always there. And we have 2 additional subscriptions for end customers. And these are different clients within the same system in order to save costs. And yeah, the partner is now able to offer more subscriptions to their end customers. All right, so that's basically all for the demo. It's really yeah, a bigger demo. I explained all these different steps. You can find screenshots of these different steps in the appendix. I just want to mention the different references which we have. We have also yeah, everything explained of these steps in the documentation, and there are also tutorials how to build web applications, how to build UIs, how to deploy the UIs, and also again the link to the system Hibernation blog post. So with that, I would like to move now to the Q&A part, and hopefully the internet connection was not that broken. Do we have questions in the chat?
Yes, we do. I will add them in now.
So is it possible to create Fiori configuration via ADT? So with regard to Fiori configuration, especially pages and spaces, we plan to have native editors in ADT. So currently it's in the Fiori LaunchPad itself, a separate tile to create pages and spaces. But it is also planned to have native editors for this one, and to start the development of these artifacts in ADT. Yes. All right. How does the service appear in the consumer service marketplace? So my example explained that it's possible to offer the subscription within the same global account of the partner. So currently, it's not possible, according to the BTP infrastructure, to have a cross-global account subscription. So there's a requirement for this feature, but it's not available yet. So therefore, the current approach is that the partner need to prepare a sub-account for the end customer in the global account of the partner, but then everything also from the authorization perspective is in the responsibility of the customer. Also the trust settings and the IDP configuration and so on. So everything is possible, but within a sub-account of the global account of the partner. And yeah, this approach works because this is the magic behind this maintain solution app, which I explained shortly in the landscape portal. So this was the last step, and everything is done. Also the names and so on, how it is named, how this tile should be named within the service marketplace. This is part of this wizard maintain solution. Are there any further questions? All right. Seems not the case. Okay, yeah, with that, I would like to close this session. I think it was really challenging, and I hope I could explain these very important scenarios for our customers and partners, how to build a multi-tenancy SaaS solution. All right. Bye-bye.